Joining me now are three of the best political analysts in the country. They are all CNN contributors. We are joined by former White House political director and Republican strategist Ed Rollins, New York Daily News columnist and the host of the morning show on WWRL, Errol Louis, and Democratic strategist Hank Sheinkopf. And gentlemen, thank you. Always a pleasure. Let's talk about BLAGO'S, because this has really been quite an entertaining and disturbing little wrinkle this afternoon. The governor insisting on nominating his one-time opponent, Ronald Burris. Let's just listen to what he had to say to start this discussion.
Roland Burris is no stranger to the people of our state. He has had a long and distinguished career serving the people of Illinois. He will be a great United States Senator. And now I'd like to ask everyone to do one last thing. Please don't allow the allegations against me to taint this good and honest man.
Hank, assessments of this move?
Very smart politically. Going to be tough for people to try to say, well, you can't do that, Governor, because that's his power. And I defy Harry Reid, frankly, or anyone else with a brain ought to defy him to stand up and say you won't seat this guy when you consider the dynamics of the state of Nevada and the changing electorate there, which has become increasingly more African-American.
Yeah, he's really set it up, BLAGO'S has, as a civil rights kind of an issue, you know, to deny him his seat. And let's keep in mind, getting that seat, even in a week before the rest of the new senators come in, gives him seniority over something like 6 new senators. It actually matters. It's very important. And for them to threaten to not seat this man, who's really in no way involved in any of the scandal, it would not only be unfair, but it would start a bit of a ruckus. Is
it a credible threat that can be acted on?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But, you know, this is an example, I think, of all of the people trying to pursue the Illinois governor overstepping. You know, you have all this whole cast of characters in Illinois, and they've all fallen over themselves to try and knock him out of the box and try and besmirch him. And I think it's beginning to backfire.
Ed, your thoughts?
Rightly or wrongly, the governor has the power to basically appoint this man. You cannot question his qualifications. He's been the attorney general. He's been the state controller. He's been elected 4 times statewide. He's run numerous other times. I think I'd let it go if I was Harry Reid. I think it's 2 years left of this sentence. I should say sentence. 2 years left. A little Freudian slip. 2 years left of the, hopefully more for the sentence we'll be talking about later. 2 years left in the term. Then anybody who wants to run can run in 2010. He's 70. He'll be 73. My sense is he's a horse holder as opposed to someone who's going to be there long term. And I think to have a fight over the qualifications or who did what and where, I think would be very destructive.
All this talk about a special election, do you think it could happen?
It can happen. I mean, certainly the legislature could have made it happen, but you can't take away the powers of an incumbent governor. I mean, you can't do it after the fact. And I think it would be a very foolish process. They could have done it 2 weeks ago. They didn't have the guts to do it. So I think they got to live with it at this point in time.
I think both these men are correct. It's the law in Illinois says the governor makes the appointment. The legislature didn't act, as Ed noted. The ruckus that Errol cites and I first brought out could occur. Why bother? Let it alone. Let Burris be seated and go forward.
And there's no other African-American in the Senate.
We did hear President-elect Obama speak about it today, though. What are your thoughts about that?
He ought to be the president-elect and keep his nose out of this one. Why? No good can come of it. Let it happen.
I agree with that. I was surprised that he stepped into it.
All right. Let's move on to the other issue that's very much dominating the headlines, and that's Israel. We have had a fierce fight going on. We've had mixed, I'm sure you just heard the last interview that we had, mixed reports about what exactly is going on, about a possible truth, what's your estimate of what's happening now in terms of the American response?
America doesn't have much to do in this conflict. This is facts on the ground. A response by the Israelis to extraordinary numbers of rockets at civilians and deaths by civilians. The attempt has been to knock out the enemy. The Americans have absolutely nothing to say about it. This is an Israeli decision, and frankly, the new Obama administration isn't in power yet, one president at a time.
But it will be something that he'll have to deal with. Errol, thoughts?
Oh, sure, and he is stepping into a mess. I think the most intriguing part of all of this is very much, as your guest said, that all of the powers there have an interest in this happening. You know, the Israeli politicians, they have an election in February. They want to appear strong. They want to make up for the military defeat they suffered in 2006. You have Hamas, which is a rejectionist group that wants to show that it's fighting, it's standing up against Israel. It's going to get money for this. It's going to get prestige. It's going to get power. they have a vested interest in playing this thing out. And everybody knows, every single person, I think, looking at this knows that the only place they're going to end up at best, is a ceasefire. And so we're going to end up right where we started.
Yeah. Ed, I'm going to defer your comment till after the break. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our panel in just a moment. We are now back with our panel, Ed Rollins, Errol Louis, and Hank Sheinkopf. Gentlemen, we have President-elect Obama, who's going to inherit this issue. And some say that we should engage Hamas now and have actual discussions with Hamas. President-elect Obama had talked about engaging Iran in his campaign. What do you think about that as a strategy for Obama, or do you think it's just sort of romantic theorizing? Well,
I think it's romantic theorizing. They're terrorists, even though they were elected by the people there. They're not seeking democracy. The whole thing is such a tragedy. But as President Obama said several weeks ago, that he would not react very well if someone was shooting rockets at his daughter's home. And I think to a certain extent, many people are condemning the Israelis, and I think wrongly. They didn't start this. They're trying to protect their borders, and they're not shooting rockets and haven't been for a period of time into Palestinian homes. I think this thing has to get stopped, and I think the regional people have got to step in, the Egyptians and more of that. There's very little we can do at this point in time, and I'm not sure engaging with Hamas that are terrorists is going to be a valid pursuit.
That's a fair comment. You know, I'd like to ask you, Ed, you know, President-elect Obama's been fairly silent on this. He says one president at a time, obviously. But, you know, he and John McCain were really frequently weighed in on a lot of international issues, Russia, when Russia attacked Georgia. In the campaign, is this the moment for silence?
Well, I think it's the time. I think it's the moment for silence. I mean, I think it's still, it's one thing to talk about it in the campaign of what I would do in 20-some-odd days. He's going to have to do it. And I think to a certain extent, you know, let the Bush team get through it as best they can. And then on the 21st, it's his and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's responsibility, and will be for the next 4 years or beyond.
Before we continue, I'd like to actually put forward a comment that was made by the Deputy Press Secretary at the White House, Gordon Johndroe. Let's listen to that for a moment.
This is a conflict with two sides, and both these sides, I think, know how to end this. Hamas stops firing rockets, and Israel will not see a need to protect its people from rocket attack.
Now, you know, many in the Arab world are calling for a more even-handed approach. That certainly wouldn't suggest, that does suggest a propensity to see the Israeli side of the issue. What do you think of that discussion? Should we take a more even-handed approach?
What does more even-handed mean? Would that the same people protesting against what they think is an excessive Israeli response, would that they had the same amount of anger while Israeli children and Israeli homes were being destroyed in Sderot and in the north by Hezbollah? Nobody said a word, but suddenly it's a problem. They stop firing rockets, the Israelis will stop doing what they're doing. Most normal people, except for those who wear suicide belts around their bodies, would not want to engage in such kind of war. Why? The Israelis have much to lose, too.
Right, that's right. You know, I would like to also bring up an article that was actually put forward by our CNN contributor, Michael Goodwin. He was writing in the Daily News, and he was talking about Obama and how he has to stand firm on Israel. And let's read it. The next president must be prepared to say clearly and without caveats that America has a special relationship with Israel and that its security is not negotiable. That speaks to the point that you just made. We have the Arab League meeting. We have President Sarkozy potentially going into the region soon. Errol, what do you think about this sort of standing firm on our position? Is that
if I remember the campaign right, in almost exactly those words, we heard that more than once from Barack Obama. I don't think that that baseline position is going to change in any way, shape, or form. I think, though, that it does have to expand to include more. I mean, the White House spokesman, although actually, you know, well, Fein's statement was absolutely correct, but there's this question of who controls the borders, what's going to happen with the economy there, what's going to be the ultimate fate of these refugee camps. And you can defer those questions, but to act as if they have nothing to do with this situation, I think, is just not realistic. And again, we have to look at the situation as it is. If Obama, I think, is wise, what he'll do is immediately start trying to create some kind of a dialogue through Egypt, through Syria, through some of the other powers, through Saudi Arabia, and try to sort of encircle Hamas with Arab powers that it has to respect, it has to listen to. A direct negotiation with the United States, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
How fast will he have to do this, Ed?
You know, my sense he has so much on his plate, it depends on the escalation. 3 weeks from now, it may be quieted down somewhat. If there's a full-scale war there, then obviously it's front and center. And I would expect his foreign policy team, which is a first-rate team, will step in while he focuses on other things.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Errol Louis, Hank Sheinkopf, and Ed Rollins. Thank you. Still ahead, the results of tonight's poll. We have some more of your thoughts. Stay with us. We'll be right back.